Hello and welcome everybody to another issue of the Reel Geek Corps. My name is Chris Anthony Lopez, and joining me is the Batman to my Batman. The I am what you're like my Dick Grayson, the Dick Grayson to my Jason Todd. Is that fair?
I'm your hooch to your Turner because I'm a straight up hound, baby.
My man, the dog. It's Connor Breedlove, the Prince of Wild Real Entertainment. What's good, Connie?
I'm doing good. I picked up a couple cases of the pumpkin from Southern Tier. They dropped some pumpkin beer for the season, so I'm feeling good. As you can tell by the pit vipers, I'm
Yo,
on another level tonight. So
if y'all ain't following my man Connor on TikTok, you are absolutely missing out. I swear to God. Like I know we pump out our TikToks on our YouTube a lot, like myself, Shug, and Connor, but I'm not even like playing. Like my man Connor had me cracking up before the show even started. But yo, first of all, some house cleaning. If you aren't subscribing to Wild Real Entertainment, please do so. Show us some love. Drop a sub. I think we're a few subs away from 300, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah,
Like just a few. Like I'm talking less than a handful. So if you aren't
wow,
subbed,
on YouTube.
yeah, on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean we did our 250 stream at like 275, so
Yeah,
we've got
no more. No more streams like that for a minute. At least for your boy. Your boy would like to actually be a part of that stream if he can in any way, shape, or form. Well, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Leave a like on the video if you're watching this after the fact. Leave a comment, please. Show us what's good. What are your thoughts on all of our topics today on this show? Connor and I will be joined by a very special guest very, very soon. I see my boy popped up in the backstage. You already know, but y'all know how we start these shows. We start these shows off hot because every single week, my man Connor and I are talking about some Turner and Hooch. Why are we talking about Turner and Hooch? Why are we talking about Turner and Hooch on the Reel Geek Corps? Because you know what? We're geeky about all things, especially Disney over here at Watt. And yo, although this may be Disney heavy show, we got to talk about Turner and Hooch real quick, especially since my man Connor is absolutely loving this show. And we're talking episodes 3 and 4.
No, we're
And
not talking about season. We're not talking about episode 4. I did not get a chance.
GD. Like, is that like
I'm
the running
sorry.
joke where we each
It's me
miss
and
an
my
episode?
fiance's show. That's like our new show. We watched that, and we just finished Outer Banks season 2. Which, if you're not watching Outer Banks, I don't know what the fuck you're doing because that show is amazing. But Turner and Hooch also amazing. But that's our show, so we didn't get a chance to watch episode 4. So it's
Last
just
week I
episode
missed episode 3. Now I said I got through episode 4. I was watching it on the train back from Chicago.
It's gonna be like this the whole entire run of this show, where
Right.
we're reviewing a show and we're like, okay, we're gonna do these 2 episodes, and it's gonna be like, well, I didn't watch it, and then the other one will actually watch 2 episodes. It's gonna be like that for the whole entire run of this show.
Well, now I'm bummed because my favorite of the 2 episodes you have to wait till
This is
next
episode
week to
4.
chat about.
Oh, it's that
So,
good.
I don't know if it's that good. I my standards are pretty low for a show like this, and like especially how many times my heart's been broken watching other Disney Plus programming that's similar in the same vein to this. I keep my standards pretty low, and diamonds are forever. You see what they did there? See what they did? This is the second time they've used forever in a title.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
we got through 3 episodes and we're already running out of puns to do. But diamonds are forever. Yo, this was like just cutesy. It's not about it. Like we got to show like the life lessons in this, and we advanced the plot a little bit more with the dad and Scott Turner Sr.
Yeah.
But yo, this was just are they? I don't want to say they're writing her off, but they're really just keeping that like I forget her name, but Scott's partner. They're really keeping like she's on desk duty now.
Oh yeah. I think she might actually be pregnant, and that's why.
Like legitimately, like
Yeah.
that's and if that's how they wrote the character for the sake of this, then okay, then by all means. But yo, this episode it was cute. Like, and
Yeah.
I feel like I say that every week. Like that's exactly what this show is. Like this is family programming. Obviously, Connor's watching it with his, and I'm watching it alone on a train, feeling like a weirdo. Oh, but this show, I mean, I'm just. I don't know, man. I feel like it gets me in waves. Like episode 4, we'll talk about that next week. But episode 4, because these episodes come out on Wednesdays now, as all Disney Plus programming will going forward.
Mm.
But like every time I'm right, like hooked in it in the episode ends. It's the tag that gets me every time, and this one especially got me because we're advancing that plot forward. I'm so fascinated with this whole
I think it might be like the 12 episode, 13 episode kind of season, like streaming run.
Is that how many episodes we're getting? We're getting 13.
I think so.
Well, we're really gonna stretch this thing out.
But I think the second half is going to be geared more towards like that plot line. So I think they're building towards it and giving us like that procedural, like normal kind of crime show, kind of like a Law and Order almost.
Right.
And then the second half will kind of dive deeper into the plot line with the dad, which I'm excited for.
Now, in this episode, they gave us the name of who Mr. Turner was going to go find, right?
Yeah.
Is that this episode? It was John, correct?
Yeah.
We're looking for a John. I have a theory. This is no spoilies for episode 4, I promise. But I have a theory in regards to who this mystery John character is.
Oh.
I have 2 that I'll throw at you. The first one that I think is way out of left field and definitely will not happen, but I really want it to happen. I really want the John character to be played by Tom Hanks. I really like them just be like, oh, this is a whole different universe. Like they lied to us from the jump about this being Tom Hanks' son, or it could still be the case with Tom Hanks playing a different character in this world. You know, like I would dig that. Cool. And like a nice little nod to the fans of Turner and Hooch. But the second thing, which I think is way more realistic, that can, I guess, depending on how this whole thing lines up, what if the Trent character, is that his name, Trent?
Like the hot shot?
Yeah, like the kiss ass with the captain with the U.S. Marshals? Yeah. I think Trent is John's son. Or related to John in some type of way, and then Turner and Trent are going to butt heads.
I hope so.
Right now. I think that's what it is. That's my guess. That's my guess of how things are going to roll. Like, but that's no spoilers for episode 4 either. So
I fucking hate Trent.
Yo, we've seen him twice. Yeah, twice now. And he's out here just
he's a straight up a douchebag.
He's the worst. Trent is the worst. And there has to be some type of payoff. You can't just
There has to be a payoff.
And whether it's like Sky getting the victory at the end of the day, yay, or if it's really just, Trent being tied to what Scott Sr. was doing.
There has to be a payoff with the will they, won't they, with him and the dog trainer. I hope something comes to that because it's cute.
I like them. And I really hope they don't drag it out all season.
I know, because it's that thing with Jim and Pam. It's just fucking kiss already.
Well, Scott's oblivious, especially now that what's her name, Brooke's back.
Oh, I hated that.
And
I was
you didn't
that? No, you fucking idiot! Erica's all about you. Just go for her.
But he's super oblivious, and they're
Erica's also way cuter than that. Plain Jane looking whatever.
Why you gotta cut her up like that? I thought she was pretty.
No, Erica's way more attractive.
Word. And I mean, all power to Scott. Obviously, we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, he's got these 2 babes just gonna be fighting over him.
Right. And it's is Josh Peck really that good looking? But I digress. The show, I am way more invested in this data plot than I should be. I feel like it's the only reason, or one of the main reasons.
They're setting it up to be a big part of the show. So I think it's good that people are getting invested in that plot line because I think that's going to be like the big thing.
Right. And now, especially now you're incorporating the sister character more
Yeah.
into this. Like, we're seeing her way more than I thought we would. Like, she's like integral to the plot now, especially with that aspect of everything. But damn, why do I care so much about this John? And if it's not Tom Hanks, Trent needs to be involved some way, shape, or form for my own psyche. Unless you're gonna have this big surprise later that none of us know about. Maybe it's Tom Hanks. Who the hell knows? But we do have some other fun stuff to get to right here in the RGC. Typically, we do like 3 little things skis a week, 3 little panels a week, but this time we got 4 because we have a packed show, spoily heavy.
Yeah, a lot of shit came out. Like,
yo, that's putting it lightly. Like, we have a bunch of stuff going on. Like, we talked to Turner and Hooch, but we do have some Real Geek news. You already know we have some Real Geek news to cover, but we're not doing it alone, Connor. You know why? Connor? Because joining us right now, special guest star to the program. His name is Dwain Burke.
Hello,
Dwain. What's good,
guys?
brother?
How's it going, guys?
Good.
It's definitely going. How about you, brother? How you doing?
It's been a long day of working, on camera and some stuff behind the scenes, but it's
my man stays busy. That's what's up.
It's been an interesting day so far. Talking about mainly What If, but some other stuff as well.
Oh, we'll get to
we'll get the What If.
Well, because before I got to work this morning, I said to myself, I gotta watch What If. I got to, just out of pure curiosity. But we'll talk about that way later in the program. It's the last thing we're gonna end. That's the thing we're gonna end the show with. But right now, we do have some Real Geek news, and we're gonna go ahead and start with Powerpuff. I don't know exactly if Dwain, if you have any type of tie or if you care about this show at all. But Powerpuff over there at the CW's had themselves one hell of a production.
This thing is going to be like the Tim Burton Superman. It's going to be, someone's going to make a documentary about this because it's never coming out.
So for those at home wondering what the hell this even is, the CW is rebooting or sequeling Powerpuff Girls, and it's live action, and like they had these actresses attached, one of them being Chloe Bennett, but it came out today via Variety that she got the boot, or that she just chose to leave. So, Dwain, I'm so curious into your thoughts on Powerpuff as a whole project, because Connor and I talk about it all the time.
I mean, I don't have like a huge attachment to it. I kind of missed the boat on
There's no
Powerpuff
boat to
Girls.
miss, man.
Well, I mean, like I wasn't a kid when Powerpuff Girls came out. Like I was a little bit older at the time, so like I kind of missed I wasn't in the age demographic of the show when it was big. But I do know, like, I've seen a lot of people saying, like, she didn't leave for scheduling conflicts. She left because the show was terrible. And while that may be true because we did all see the script, what I think a lot of people didn't pick up on is after they shot the pilot, they basically went back and like retooled the entire series. So that means that they were going to have to start over from day one on production. And that could have led to scheduling conflicts with projects that she had lined up for after Powerpuff Girls. So it could actually legitimately be scheduling conflicts and not have anything to do with the quality of the show. Not like, I think it's a pretty good indicator that it is quality of the show, but like, it's not a guarantee just because of everything that happened post whatever focus groups they did or whatever testing they did with the original pilot that they shot that just sounded horrendous. I didn't read the script that was
I read it.
I didn't read it. I just heard like bits and pieces about it, and just knowing the little bit that I do know about Powerpuff Girls, I was like, this doesn't sound like it was written or created by anyone who ever had seen the show before. So it makes sense that it's not really moving forward smoothly. I think the CW kind of is hit or miss with their reboots of older properties. I don't think I mean, I don't know how popular it actually is, but I think that their Charmed reboot has been kind of a miss. I did watch like 2 seasons of it and I didn't really go back to it after that because I love the original show and I was like, this isn't the show that I remember. It doesn't have that same vibe.
Right.
But on the flip side of that, I did watch the reboot of Roswell, which I'm not caught up on, but I am going to keep watching. And I thought I think that's better than the original show. And I really liked the original show. So they're kind of hit or miss on their remake. So I think that they have the potential to do this show well, but like they got to get the right people.
Yeah.
Connor, you're the one person on screen who's actually read the script.
Yeah, I read the script. It's bad. I had like people in my DMs, like a lot of people like hitting me up for the script because I let it be known that I had the script. I was like, if anybody needs it, just let me know if you want to put yourself through that. So I sent it to a lot of people, but yeah, it's not good. I think if we see more people drop out, I think that's an indicator of quality of how they're schooling it.
Here's what I would ask you about it. Is it bad or is it like CW?
No, it's
It
is CW, but it's CW bad. I tend to stay away from CW.
Okay, so it's
CW
actually because like when I watch CW shows, like I don't necessarily watch them for like the prolific script writing that happens on these shows.
Right.
So like, you have to kind of like
there's some CW stuff where I'm like, all right, this is kind of enjoyable. It's not good, but it's enjoyable. I don't think any way they filmed this script would be enjoyable in any sense. It's just bad. There's like, some of the sisters are like leaking the others like nudes. There's all kinds of just weird shit going on. It's really bad.
Yo.
I
love this.
Some are like abusing like Xanax and stuff. There's some weird shit in this.
Is it one of them into Mojo Jojo's kid?
Yes.
Yeah,
one of them fucks a monkey. It's very weird. It's not good. I think it's a Diablo Cody. So I mean, what do you expect? But I think if we see more people drop out, I think that's an indicator that this show might not ever get made. I think from the start, from that first like set leak photo, I think everybody knew like this show was going downhill.
I think that they kind of, and since they're owned all by the same company, that they have a similar problem to like where DC's at right now is like, or maybe where DC was at a couple of years ago. Like, stop announcing stuff. Like, wait until you've got it the way you want it, and it's ready to be released, and then kind of be like, hey, this is what we've got. Because like they announced that they were doing this with Chloe Bennett like 2 years ago.
It's been a minute.
It's the like Kanye effect.
And like everybody was like super excited about it because they're like, yo, this is so dope. We've got, actresses of color stepping into this prominent like superhero role, and it's just been letdown after letdown as more stuff is like come out as they move forward. So like maybe like take a step back and just like not let all of that stuff out until you kind of got your feet underneath you.
Okay, so the issue with this show from the beginning is that they were trying to live action adapt the Powerpuff Girls. The idea itself is flawed. Like, not because it's all animation to live action, it's what you chose. You chose the Powerpuff Girls. Like, that's like, I'm not saying it's this big like cult following show, but you chose like these girls who are made from sugar spice and everything nice, and it's all like the main bad guy's a monkey, and like you got like it's weird if you put the idea down on paper. It's very, very weird. And you try to adapt
what does that say about our Hey Arnold reboot?
Our Hey Arnold thing actually works, and we'll talk about that.
Okay, good.
That's way more grounded in set reality, unlike Powerpuff Girls.
I mean, I would disagree. I think that there is a way to do a live action Powerpuff Girls. It's just you have to like.
You can't put it on the CW.
I mean, you
No.
can put it on the CW, but it's just you
I
can't
think with
you can't go
from
full
reading the-
tilt into
Yeah.
like what they needed to do was kind of like maybe do like half a season of like kind of telling the Powerpuff Girls story that's already been kind of covered, and then like maybe in the mid-season break do like a time jump into adulthood. Because if you do something like that, you can move into those more adult themes, those like young adult themes that they want to like like kind of latch onto. But I think kind of like trying to jump in and like all of a sudden, I don't know which one it was, it's addicted to Xanax is like that's the opening scene of the like I don't know if it was the opening scene, but I imagine with the CW that's
All this
probably the
happened-
opening scene.
Everything I talked about, those
Um,
points, all happened within like the first 10 pages. So it's all
Yeah, so
opening
it's like
10 minutes, and it's
yeah,
like,
so like you can't open with that stuff.
unless you put it on
Right.
HBO Max. It's just they were trying to put it on the CW, and
I
they're
mean,
trying to
even
make
I think
it
even if
super
they
adult. So
I think
it's just
even if
like
they put it on HBO Max, I don't think it would have worked.
This how they were going
Because
about
it's-
it, and the script that they put out. I didn't read anything about it. I just saw the bits that Connor was showing me, that he read to me, or other bits from other people. But from the jump, what they had in mind obviously didn't work, to the point where I think the head of the CW, the president, was like, "Yeah, this is a mess." He used the M word describing how the pilot was shot, and like that is terrible for a show, especially like it's a well-known IP. And people know who the Powerpuff Girls are. Not saying they're like big and massive and still relevant in pop culture, which they're not. But
I mean,
if
people are
it's the-
familiar enough.
right, it's like Archie, and they try to do Riverdale to success, right? Like people are talking about it for all the
I mean,
worst reasons.
But here's the thing. I think Riverdale is so far removed from the actual comics where it actually works.
Extremely.
It works.
Extremely.
It works
Yeah.
because it's not tied to anything. But with Powerpuff Girls, they're still trying to tie it. It's a continuation. It's not
Right.
a adaptation
and
of,
that's
of anything.
and that was another thing I was not really sure of, like what they were trying to do. Were they like actually trying to like continue the stories that had already been told,
Yes.
or were they just kind of doing an adaptation that just kind of starts in the middle of the story?
No, it's a pickup of where the series leaves off.
Okay, yeah, that's like that.
And so
Yeah.
they're trying to pick up,
That's-
and it's a total tonal shift, and it's still tied to the actual animated series. And then
I think a big
Riverdale
part
is
of
like so far removed from anything that came before it. So it's like
Yeah.
that's why that works, and why Powerpuff Girls is not going to work.
yeah, I mean, I also think Powerpuff Girls wasn't. I don't think it's going to work. I mean, and this is something that they might do, but given the company, they don't have a history of doing. But getting someone with a clear vision for what the show like is gonna be and like where it needs to go, because like from what it sounds like, there's no one person kind of like, you know, playing jigsaw with everything and like making sure the pieces are in the right place. It sounds like in the pilot they were just like, hey, we're gonna throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks, and then like we'll use that in the second episode.
It's also a bunch of like 40-something-year-olds trying to cater to a younger generation, and it's like, oh, this is what younger people are dealing with, and it's like,
Yeah,
not really. Like Euphoria is like one of the only shows that I think really captures like the younger generation, like today's generation well. And everything now is trying to mimic that, and it's like they kind of miss the point where it's not all like that. That's like a very zeroed in like culture of today's generation. And every show trying to cater to that generation is trying to mimic that, and it's like it's not all like that. Like it works for that show because of the stories they're telling. You're telling a story so far removed from reality where it's like that doesn't work with what comes before that.
Right, and
You know?
you're taking like, and again, you're taking the already well-known IP that is the Powerpuff Girls, and the CW is the perfect place to put it, because odds are a lot of the folks that are watching Powerpuff Girls are watching CW, right? Like odds are. Don't want to assume. I know I would have. The second this show was announced, I'm like,
I was
oh
hyped.
my god, yes, give this to me. Because did I watch Powerpuff Girls religiously? No, but this idea intrigues the hell out of me.
I had an
Especially
older
with the cast
sister,
that you
so I
got.
had to watch it.
Yo, and like it was like, let's not act like it was bad either. But like you get names like Chloe Bennett, you get Dove Cameron, you get Yana Peralt, and like, oh, like, hey, like you got my attention now. Like Diablo Cody's name's on this. Okay, word. Like this is gonna rock. And then they start shooting the pilot, the pictures come out. Oh no. Oh god, that's what we're doing.
I mean,
and then we hear it's a mess and they had to stop.
I don't set photos never kind of like you always have to take
I
those,
never
like,
base an opinion off of set
yeah,
photos,
because like
but
I'll base an opinion off costumes off of set photos. Take that shit.
I mean, you can't though, because when
look
you,
at
when
the
you
Captain
look at
Marvel costume. That
yeah,
looks
because like when you look at a costume in a set photo, you're looking at it without any post, so
Sure.
you don't know what it's actually going to look like, because like they mute colors so that they so like something will look like super muted in a set photo, and you're like, oh, that looks, that doesn't look vibrant, and it's because like, yes, they're going to color
they have
correct
to make it towards what they're going to color.
yeah, and it's also, well, not just color correcting, but also like you're not seeing it with the lighting that they're using on set, and it's meant to look well in that lighting. So like,
yeah,
because like I remember when the initial came out for the Black Lightning costume, and people were like, "This looks stupid," and it's like,
yeah,
it looks
these
dumb.
pictures are coming off of like an LG like phone.
Yeah,
It's like,
like,
even make
that's
fucking phones
it's not being presented in the way that it's really meant to be presented. So like I won't take that like against it, but like the thing that I'm like I struggle with is that like you could have made this, like the tonal shift for me isn't the problem. The problem is like the real like lack of direction, because I think that you could have done
went forward with it and just said, we are going to shoot the script and see how it goes, and then we'll go from there. I think if they shot that pilot script, I think enough people would be intrigued where it would have hit.
Yeah, I
think
think
would
that
have like hate watched it almost.
Yeah, because I think that there were some things that I heard about it that I thought were interesting, that I think were exactly how, if you were going to take a continuation of the series from what it was originally and move it into something like now with adults, it would be, a team of girls whose father basically forced them to be cops, that really, made himself out to be like the world's best dad, but really wasn't the best dad. And then like the trauma of growing up with that, growing through that, and growing past that. And like, I think that's an interesting story to tell, but from what it sounds like, that's not the story that they were trying to tell.
Right.
Because like for me, if I was going to do this, I would make what's his name, Dr. Adam or whatever the hell.
Plutonium.
Yeah, that like I would have made him the bad guy in like the first season, because like to me, like he like thinking about it, like if I was a child in that situation and grew up through that and really didn't want to be a superhero, like he would have been the bad guy in my eyes. And I think that's the interesting way to tell that story, not to like, have them leaking each other's nudes and being catty and like not being sisters, and like that's not how you like tell an actually like an interesting, intriguing, well-developed story. And I think that there is a story there that is a continuation of the original show,
right,
and done in live action. They just don't have the right people doing it.
And that's where Connor and I like, and I bet Connor, we were not the only ones who were very excited for this show, because like what you were saying, Dwayne, the idea of them doing a grown up, like what happened after y'all were heroes as children, like yes, like I'm more than down for this. The cast you got behind it, like it's great, it sounds dope, and then you see some of the shit they had in the script. and like, oh my god, we're out here, we're like blackmailing each other, we're popping pills, the whole damn thing. It's and it's like that's what we're doing, like that. And Connor, you know better than us. Like I don't know what knowing the CW, the end tag of the first episode, some crazy shit happens that's going to dictate the rest of the season. And I doubt that Professor Plutonium was, or being the villain was the end of that first episode, at least as of now. Dwayne, you may be onto something about where they're going to go going forward. But as of right now, they've gotten the shit that they tried shooting, it wasn't going to work.
Yeah, and like I don't have a problem, and it's not even like the like addiction or anything like that's not a bad story to tell either, because like I think that
it could be a very interesting story about 3 young girls who grew up with so much immense pressure. What does that do to someone? That's an interesting story, especially, you know, years later when they're young adults. What are they dealing with and how are they dealing with? So that's a very interesting story. It's just how it was written was very just off the wall, just like this doesn't make any sense.
Did it be because and this may be the root of the problem. Did the script feel like it was written by a 40-year-old man?
Yes. And it was written by a 40-year-old woman. So it's like it should be written. It should feel like this person has their
so it was
the generation because of what she's written before, you know, with Juno and Jennifer's Body and all this. I was expecting so much more, but it felt so out of touch.
Okay. And how long ago were those two examples that you brought up, Connor? Like Juno?
They were quite.
And Jennifer's
that was
Body.
like 10, 12, 13 years ago.
Right. So it's been a minute. Not to crap on Diablo Cody. Obviously, like her work is beloved by many.
Prolific.
Right. And with this, and that's where that you pop that name on something like this, like, okay, like now I'm really interested. But then, like you see the script, you hear how much of how it was in production for the few days, weeks they were in production, and then it's just entirely thrown out. We're gonna restart, and now we're losing one of the stars. Who the hell knows what's next? Does Dove Cameron leave? Does Yana Peralt leave? Does Donald Faison leave? Right. So who the hell knows? And I'm so glad we had a real eloquent conversation about this. That's not what I was expecting when Connor and I mentioned this earlier. Shout out to Matt in the chat. What's going on, Matt? Apparently Sabine will be in Ahsoka, and she's the perfect choice to play Sabine. She may already be Sabine. Who the hell knows? But they'll talk about that more on Saber Reels, 7 o'clock on Saturdays, or 7 o'clock Central, I should say.
I mean, I don't know about that.
I just want to see more Chloe Bennett.
Saber Reels.
I'll be honest. I prefer a little bit more continuity. I know a lot of people wanted Ashley Eckstein to play Ahsoka, but the problem there is that Ashley Eckstein is not really a film actress. Whereas people were like, well, they did it for Bo-Katan and Katie Sackhoff. Well, Katie Sackhoff is a film or an on-screen actress. Like she, and goddamn, I cannot. Tia Sakar, right? Is her name that voices Sabine?
Oh, beats me. You're asking wrong dude.
I think that's her name. But she does on-screen work as well, so it's not like they're getting a voice actress to do it if they brought her on to play Sabine in live action as well. So I think that they should at least give her the opportunity, because like no one knows the character better. So
leave me alone. Go ahead.
But you know, maybe they do a screen test and it doesn't work, and then at that point, you got to go find someone else. You got to get the best person for the job. But I think that it should be at least, you know, she should at least be approached like, hey, would you be interested? And I think she's already said that she would be. So like, you know, give it the old college try.
And I've seen that conversation had a ton, especially around like the Bo-Katan stuff when she was just rumored to be a part of the Mandalorian. And Matt does say yes. I'm pretty sure you're onto some, Dwayne, when you're talking about Sabine. But we do have one more thing to talk about. Something that maybe, I don't know how we're gonna react to this because this just came out of nowhere, really. But Tim Drake in Batman comics really made some shockwaves over the course of social media, to put it lightly. The character came out yesterday, or the news came out yesterday that the character was not going to be. I don't want to mislabel this, but I believe the character's bisexual, and they acknowledge that in Batman comics, and that's something that, another big character in DC lore. Tim Drake, a beloved Robin in the Batman lore, and some folks' favorite Robin, maybe not one of mine, but still I really love Tim. And now the character, they changed the sexuality of him, and surprisingly, I haven't seen people lose their shit yet. But go ahead.
People are not losing their minds because the people who are paying attention to this are comic readers, and they know that each run of a certain comic or a comic character is going to have different interpretations of certain characters. And this is always my point with like comic book movies, when people are getting so shitty about like how a comic book character is portrayed on screen. It's the same thing like the comics. They're always portrayed different in a different creator's mind. So I'm happy that there's no like there are some toxic takes about this news out there, I'm sure. But the overall consensus, there's not really much toxic reaction, is because they're comic readers, they're paying attention to this stuff, and they understand that different writers and different artists are going to have different interpretations. And I just wish people had the same reaction to the movies, because it's the same thing. Like, these are fictional characters and they're comic characters, and everybody's going to have a different interpretation of them.
Right.
So that's my thing. That's my input.
Now, and off the bat, like Tim, like what I mentioned, he's a Robin. I believe he's the third Robin that we had gotten. And, it's not like when they made Thor a lady. What's up, Suge in the chat? Chris, are you in a new spot and bunk beds can I spend the night? No, these are bunk beds. I'm in my brother's room. Buy me food and I get sexual. Get out of here, Suge. But this, like when they made Thor a lady, and when they made Captain America black, or a black man happened to be Captain America, that's where people lost their minds. And I'm pretty sure we all remember that discourse about how that was, and how the internet was like, oh my gosh, they're making Captain America Sam Wilson, they're making Jane Foster Thor, holy God, what the hell. But like what you were saying, Connor, like people are just they're gonna change the characters ever so slightly. Like Steve Rogers was still around, Thor Odinson was still around.
It's just gonna be, I'm gonna question a lot about you if you're really concerned about who a fictional character, a character in a comic, if you're so worried about who they're fucking, it's very strange. Like, I'm sure that I
saw some of the panels that they'd written for Tim,
story, but
I thought it was fine.
If you're that upset about who a fictional character is like choosing to be with, you're kind of weird.
Right. Dwayne, do you have any 2 cents on Tim Drake's coming out?
I mean, I think it was done very well. I've seen a lot of like headlines that have kind of like not been what I feel is like totally accurate. Because there was no like actual label assigned to his sexuality in any of the panels that I saw. He kind of was just like, he asked a dude on a date. Like that's like it. it's like that doesn't like that's no definition of his sexuality at all. Yeah. And until like the character comes out and like says, I'm this, there's no definition, at least for me. It just means that he's taken a step on the journey to figure out, how he identifies and what his truth is. And I think that that's something that a lot of people can identify with, and that's kind of the point of comics. So like if you're gonna like, oh well, I don't like Tim Drake anymore because of that, it's like, well, okay, fine, go find another character that you identify with and follow that one. Like if it's that make or break for you, like you don't have to read you don't have to read this run. Like go find something else.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, there are tons of Batman comics with Tim Drake in them. Like,
Yeah,
it's
and
as
like
simple
and
as
there's
that.
tons, and like you said, there's what 4 other Robins, so
There's a
or
ton.
five or 6.
Yeah, there's a
6 other
lot of
Robins?
different Robins. And I think
Because
you know
got
the main story about like Tim Drake is like finding himself in different situations, and this is just like another version of Tim Drake finding himself, and I'm sure that's going to play a big part. I just think anybody worried about anybody's sexuality, especially when it's not someone they know and it's a fictional character, in any sense of like worrying about anybody's sexuality is just, I think, weird. Like, who cares?
Right.
Like, just let people, like, let them do whatever they want. It's not bothering you. If you are so against that, just don't read the comic. Like, it's fine. Jesus Christ.
Like when the news came out, and Dwayne, to your point, yeah, like, and I saw similar headlines. That's why, again, I said what I said in the beginning. I don't want to mislabel him because obviously we don't know, and they, at least they haven't told us what the case was. Oh, but I see that we are, we're still in the time, and I think we're way more progressive now and what we've gotten than what we've seen, especially when Captain America became Sam Wilson and Jane Foster became Thor. Like, times have changed drastically, especially in this little community, this little pocket that we're in. And like what you were saying, Dwayne, to emphasize it, like comics, we see ourselves in them. That's been the case for a century, like ever since Superman popped up, we're like, oh geez, like we can see ourselves as that character. And now again, just because the character is changing, or better yet, fleshing them out more, Tim's not changing as a character at all. That's the crazy part. There's nothing that's changed about Tim, is that we just learned one more thing about him. At least that's how I'm looking at it. And just because, like, if you don't like Tim now, all right, cool. Go read Duke. Go read like there's a whole bunch of Batman runs going on. Batman's in like 50 comics, and I guarantee Tim's not in all of them. Go read Jason Todd. Go read Dick Grayson. Go read Damian Wayne. There are a ton of other Robins, but we just found out this one more thing about Tim Drake, and I really enjoyed it. It popped to me when I saw it on Twitter a few hours ago. I'm like, that's really damn cool, and I'm glad they did it. And I read this some of the panels that were online. I'm like, well, this is cute. I can rock with this. I dig this. So, just want to point that out. We're all about being inclusive here on Watt Real Entertainment. Come on, now be good people. Jesus. And Tim is always my favorite Robin. I'm always going to support. Hell yeah, Tim's your favorite Robin? I love that. That's rad. Who's you guys' favorite Robin? Do you have one before we move on?
As Robin?
As Robin, yes. Because Tim's a goodie. Tim,
yeah, I'll have to go with Tim Drake.
I don't know. I kind of like Damian, but like I get why people don't like him.
Damian's a little shit.
But I kind of like enjoy the like the not so like Boy Scout Robin. Yeah. Like because like I identify with having to like temper your darkest urges, because I think that was like his biggest thing, and like his biggest journey is like getting out of the League of Shadows and League of Assassins mindset of just like, oh, if I don't like someone, just kill him. Like,
right.
Trying to like, pull back the darkness and kind of return to humanity. I think, and I think if there's anyone that like pairs perfectly as a mentor with that, I think it is Batman. Like, and that's why they're like the perfect pairing, is because like the lesson he, and I mean, he still struggles with, is holding the darkness at bay. And the same with Bat. Like, everyone thinks like, and this is kind of why I liked the Ben Affleck portrayal of Batman so much, is like people get so wrapped up in the Batman doesn't kill, and they forget like the Dark Knight Returns and stuff like that, where Batman just goes off. So like, right. He has it in him. He just, you know, he recognizes what's inside of him and strives to be better. That's why I think, honestly, I think he is a better example than Superman, because like Superman doesn't like have that really in him, you know?
Word.
Like he just is good. He doesn't have
Right.
to struggle to be good. Like that's why I've always struggled with identifying with Clark Kent and Superman, is because he is alien, because no one is that good. Yes, he is the example we should try to strive to be, but no one is that good, which is why
it's more of a portrayal of what we are.
Yeah, and that's why I've always found Batman and his willingness to do the right thing more impressive, because he has to like for him it always seems like a choice to be good. Superman never, it's never a choice, you know?
No, totally.
But
and the whole idea of Damian Wayne and Batman, like I never minded it. I never hated Damian. I know some folks hate Damian Wayne. Like I don't hate any of the Robins. I mean, if I had to pick, like, I know I asked favorite Robin as Robin. My favorite character who's been Robin's Jason Todd, and I was as the day I die. But I'm a classic guy. I like Dick Grayson. He's cool. Like, because I mean, not only is he, like, I just really like Dick Grayson. But Tim Drake, low key, wasn't Tim the Robin in some of the later Batman in the Animated Series, or am I thinking that? Am I getting that cross? Like I want to say I'm getting that mixed up, because I think Tim is the Bat, or he's the Robin in like the, what's it call it, GD, the damn Arkham games, because obviously like Nightwing's around and Jason and Red Hood's around, and like I also really enjoy Tim Drake. Low-key, Tim may be the best Robin. Now I'm thinking about it.
My favorite person who's been Robin is probably Jason Todd.
Oh, thanks, Matt, in the chat. Appreciate it, brother.
I think my favorite I think my favorite person who's been Robin is Jason Todd, because the entire like his entire journey, like from being Robin to Red Hood and like through that is
right,
like the most interesting. And then I think it's followed closely by Dick, but like I think honestly, out of like all of the characters that have been Robin, I think Tim is probably my least favorite, because again, he's kind of like, he's just too good. If that makes sense. There are
a lot of good choices. Like, there's no bad choice.
Yeah.
Like
but also Tim kind of came into, like, Tim was also important in his pairing with Batman, because he came into Batman's like life and into the partnership when kind of Batman was more lost, and like he needed the guiding light, kind of. So it's like it's always like a balance in the team and like within the Bat family. So it's like it's not that he isn't important or like as good of a Robin. He's just like my least favorite.
Oh no, and like I said, there's no bad choice for Robins. There are a bunch of great characters, and I think that's where DC does excel in that department too. Like they just write some kick-ass characters regardless of their origin. Matt Thomas.
I've always thought DC had better characters than Marvel, if I'm being completely
honest.
A
long time. So did I. Like, and I mean, because that was my ignorance to Marvel. Like, I mean, before the MCU came out, like a lot of folks, I was a DC kid. Like, I loved all that shit. And Marvel was really late to the party, unless your name was Spider-Man. But
I mean, I'm just gonna say it, and a lot of people are, I think, look back on X-Men with like hardcore nostalgia glasses,
rose-colored glasses. Yeah,
no, not rose-colored glasses, because I think if they actually went back and looked at it, they would see the truth. But they just look at it with this nostalgia, and it's like, if you go back and you read the original runs of X-Men, they're terrible.
Yeah,
they're bad. They're terrible. If you go back and watch the 90s cartoon, it's terrible.
Oh, yo, that was
I'll agree.
It is terrible.
I'll agree.
I
And
haven't
that's
watched it in a
coming
minute.
from someone who watched the
And I love
X-Men
X-Men.
on like WB Kids and stuff like every
That's
Saturday
what's up.
morning.
That's what's up.
Going
Like,
back, like because they're
yeah,
on
the show's not good.
Disney Plus, like
Yeah.
it's not good.
The show is hard to watch, and it's
Very
not as
hard.
long. It's not as long as everybody like kind of remembers it as.
It's
like
like
everyone
4
thinks
seasons, isn't it?
What's up?
Isn't it like 4 seasons?
Yeah, something like that. And
And
they
it
move
seemed like it was like
very,
20 seasons.
very, yeah, like it moves very, very quickly. Like the pacing in it is like it's rough, and like, but people look back at it and they're like, "Oh, it was so great," and it's like it really wasn't.
It really
Like,
wasn't.
It was just kind of flashy, and I think that DC's always had the better actual like characters.
Well, yo, do I gotta or at least try to rewatch X-Men the animated series? Because it's been a minute.
You want to try?
Yeah. I'm not talking about I'm not talking about Evolution or what was the one that was with Wolverine? Kind of like he was the like head of the team.
You're talking about like the kick-ass like
was-
intro, the kick-ass theme song, 90s X-Men. Like
Yeah.
that was alongside the Fox
Yeah.
Spider-Man show too. You talking about
Yep.
that one?
Yeah,
Bro,
yeah,
the
that
one that they even crossed over. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because I rewatched that 90s Spider-Man cartoon like it's nobody's business. Oh,
I mean, the 90s Spider-Man cartoon sometimes is a bit of a rough watch too. I think it's better than it's better than X-Men for sure, but I think that in the days since, both of those have had better adaptations. Like I think there have been much better Spider-Man series adaptations and much better X-Men series adaptations. Like I really liked Evolution, and I don't know if you guys have watched X-Men, like I think it's called like X-Men anime, I think is like actually what it's called. But those are actually pretty good too.
Awesome shit. Matt Thompson in the chat, Dwayne, this is why I love you. And Evolution was a better X-Men series, X-Men and Wolverine. Word.
Yeah,
Yo,
I forget what the Wolverine one is
rewatch
called. It's called like X-Men, Wolverine, and Friends or something like that. I forget what it's called.
Anything with "and friends" in the title, I'm in.
But I think it came out post Evolution. I think it was after Evolution.
I vaguely remember Evolution. Vaguely. I think X-Men wasn't my jam until I was older because I was too tied up in the Spider-Man stuff. Like Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. I watched that all the time. It's not good, but I watched it all the time.
I mean, like I watched all of those like kind of nostalgia cartoons. Like I used to come home from school, Batman and Superman Adventures were on after school every day. I watched those. I watched Static Shock. I watched, X-Men Evolution, X-Men, Spider-Man. Like I've watched all of these shows, and it's like I've even kind of watched some of, because there's a few adaptations that have like never been released in the United States. Like I know that there's a
Japanese Spider-Man.
Well, it's like I know that there's an English dub of the X-Men animes. Maybe they're on Disney Plus now, but I know that they weren't originally when they started getting everything onto Disney Plus, and I had to like go find them because like you could not find them in the United States like at all.
My man had to go get a VPN to watch
because there's like an X-Men one. I think there's like a Blade one, and I think there's like a Hulk one. Like they did like a couple different like character adaptations all in like an anime style with an actual like Japanese animation studio, and it's like they're actually really good and they're really well done, and it's just like I think everyone kind of assumed that it wouldn't translate here, like the animation style wouldn't translate to an American audience, and I was like, but it's not really about. That's why I get so frustrated. Like people so focus on the medium and like they forget about like, well, you still have to tell an engaging story.
Exactly. See, and Matt out here helped me out in the chat. Evolution is on Disney Plus. Maybe this is the one I watch instead of X the Fox, the OG X-Men one. But I vaguely remember Evolution, vaguely. So I might have to give it a watch for the sake of the RGC. But speaking of superhero teams, or just super teams in general, we need to talk about the mother trucking Suicide Squad. We're gonna spoil the hell out of the Suicide Squad.
Oh man, that shark is fucking sexy.
If you haven't seen this movie, by all means, go check it out. It's on HBO Max as we speak. It's a local theater near you. Go ahead and check it out. But we're talking the Suicide Squad in its whole spoiler glory. And Dwayne, since you are the guest, our special guest star here on the RGC this week, please start us off. What are your thoughts on the Suicide Squad?
I thought it was good. I didn't think it was great. Mm-hmm. I do think that one of the better points of the movie was the focus on the team. Kind of the problem that I felt with not just the first Suicide Squad film, but also kind of with Birds of Prey, is that they did not feel like they were about the actual team and like all of the characters that were in the movie. And like, yes, I know it's the emancipation of one fantabulous Harley Quinn or whatever the fuck the title is.
I think you got it the first time.
but I understand that, but like it's supposed to be like a team up movie, so like there needs to be some sort of like movement with the team, and I think that was like probably the part that faltered the most in Birds of Prey. And kind of similar in Suicide Squad, not so much because the movie was made that way, it's just that all of the other characters were kind of so lackluster that like Harley was so much above everyone else in the movie that it kind of just felt like they were in her movie. And this didn't feel that way. Like this actually felt like it was about the team. And I know there's some people that like really didn't like what was going on with Harley. And it's like I felt like this kind of felt more like a truer interpretation of the character than we've gotten before. Because there is a like realness and a rawness and even like a gentleness in Harley, but there's also like an absolute like ruthlessness as well, and a bit of a 0 to 100 real quick, like 180 flip that occurs in the character, because people like I struggle with people that forget the character is not mentally stable.
Yeah.
Right.
Like people forget and they're like, why did she act like this? And then all of a sudden
not gonna have this like steady trajectory in character building. She's mentally unstable. So
and like
some like sense of improvement, but she's gonna fall again. Like she's
and that's the thing, is like even people who are like, oh, but she like improved so much in Birds of Prey, and it's like, okay, well, like for anyone else who's out there and who's like, as myself included, who struggled with mental illness, knows that like, yeah, you progress and you get better and things, you have your like peaks, but there's almost always a regression, and you regress and you fall back into that, toxic pattern, and you go back into some of those toxic behaviors and things that you did to kind of get yourself, to your lowest, your rock bottom. Like that stuff happens. Like it happens. So having a character that just like, oh, I'm never gonna like, love again, or like ever open up to a man again or anything like that. It's like that's not a realistic like expectation for the character, and like,
right.
And her reaction to that, I think, is perfect Harley, because she is so extreme that like, yes, her reaction to it isn't like, hey, let's talk about, you need to change some of your behaviors. Her option is, I really, really like this guy, and I know what happens when I really, really like this guy. So the only thing I can do to prevent that from happening is removing him from the equation.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Like that's a very Harley thing to do. So like like I don't
Taylor.
get why people had such a problem with it. I thought it was great. I think the standout for me.
It's okay. You can say it. It's King Shark. King Shark is
No, for me, it's either it's I don't know if
Weasel.
it's Polka Dot
Okay.
Man
All right, Weasel.
or if it's like I'm lusting and it's Ratcatcher 2 because like I really liked Ratcatcher 2 too. Like as on top of the character, but also Daniela Melchior is like gorgeous. Like even when they like tried to make her like a sloth,
they try to make her dirty,
and I was like, she's still beautiful. I was like, she is still stunning.
Right, she's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Even with Sebastian on her shoulder, I'm like, yep, yeah. Like,
the most gorgeous character, in my opinion, it's King Shark, and I'm not even being ironic.
King Shark was
King Shark
great.
was fantastic. Even when he was like in the aquarium and he was like, "Oh, stupid friends," and he's like hopping around. I'm telling you, King Shark was the best part of this movie. Every time King Shark got beat up or shot at, I was literally screaming at the screen, like, "You better not fucking kill him, James Gunn! Like, you better not kill him."
No,
like,
it was
King Shark was my favorite. I was getting so emotional over King Shark. I don't know why. I just loved King Shark. And that was my standout. Even at the end when he was like pointing at all the bodies, he was like, "Nom nom." I was like, yes, eat him. Let him eat something. Jesus Christ, the man is starving.
Yo.
Let my king eat.
This is the cutest Sylvester Stallone's ever been in his career.
Absolutely.
Can you see that?
And
I think
I was also happy when I was very upset when I thought because spoilers. I was very upset.
We're spoiling this. Yes,
Weasel died. I was very upset because I was like, he's an ugly thing, and I wanted him to live and be a big part of this movie. And I thought he died. And then at the end, he gets up and he's like, "No, no, no," and then runs off. And I was like,
what was he like, Connor? Connor, what was he like? Okay. I didn't.
I mean, I'll be honest. I don't think I could have handled any more of him in the movie than
I couldn't handle
him
because
honest.
I personally identify as Weasel. I mean, look at me.
I just think like him with King Shark would have been a little bit too much.
But yeah, no, like, there's only so much like little dialogue, but like big personality still somehow with damn Weasel.
I identify as Weasel.
And I will say I am excited for the Peacemaker show now.
Yeah, because I think it is a continuation of this.
It is.
Because I think a lot of people thought it was going to be like a prequel.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a continuation, especially
because I thought I'm pretty sure almost everyone thought he was going to die. And that's why everyone, because they never said what it was. And I think, they kind of just let people feed into themselves about thinking Peacemaker was going to die. And then, he didn't. So, and I don't think that Peacemaker was like that bad of a guy. Like, I totally understood. I think that's one of the best parts about the character. And what's crazy about this is I think that they did a better job of presenting U.S. Agent than Marvel did of presenting U.S. Agent, because like that's like essentially what his character is, because like he even said it. He's like, I'm not like, and that was, I think, the thing that was brilliant is that he didn't say, I'm doing this for the United States, I'm doing this for my country. He didn't say any of that. He just said, I'm keeping the peace. I'm doing whatever it takes to keep the peace.
They showed the struggle of a man who, was hired for a job, and, that's what he believes in. And I think that's
it's the struggle of a man who is hired for a job, but also believes that he's doing the right thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Real quick in the comments, a fellow King Sharker Taylor Cleek, King Shark is a free man. Now he can eat whatever he wants. Absolutely. The boy, the man, the king is hungry. Let him eat. There were, again, I was shook when half the characters they marketed with died in the first sequence. I know they said don't get attached, but that genuinely surprised me, especially Boomerang. Yeah, when Boomerang died, I knew Pete Davidson was going to die, but that was...
I mean, didn't they tell us like half of them were going to die in the first like 10 minutes anyway?
Yeah.
They said that like
the second I saw who they sent to the island, I'm like, oh my God, they're all going to die immediately.
Yeah.
Like that was my first thought.
I was horrified when I thought those little guys killed King Shark. Absolutely. There were like 3 instances where I thought King Shark was dead, and I was screaming at the screen because I was very mad because that's my boy. I'm looking for a plush. If anybody finds a giant plush of King Shark, let me know because I am in the market. I want that boy.
The whole movie.
I honestly, I didn't have a problem with kind of how the beginning of it kind of went about, because I think that if they were going to kill anyone in that first scene, it had to have been one of like the OGs. And if it's going to be one of the OGs, it's like, okay, which one do you kill? Because like we already know Joel Kinnaman isn't dying.
Yeah, it's not Harley. It's not.
And they're not going to kill them.
I really thought they killed Harley off in that first bit.
Oh no, there's no way they were going to kill the most marketable person in the movie. There's no way.
But also, James Gunn will do whatever the fuck James Gunn wants to do. I was like, oh, he just killed Harley Quinn.
I agree, but I think within reason. I think he does still have to, kind of play nice with the studio and be like, hey, look, like we need this character still alive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this was after I read that, like, Margot was like, I don't know how many times I'll be playing her. Like, this might be the last time. After reading, don't get attached to any characters. Some of your favorite characters are going to die. So when I read all of that,
yeah, but I mean,
I think it was like 2 days before the movie where she was like, this might be the last time I play her. I was like, oh, fuck, they really killed her this quick. That's crazy.
No, I think it's because they don't know what Birds of Prey 2 is looking like yet. Yeah. I think it's more that than her dying in like, that's how I took it, at least. And it's like of the 3, like, because you have to kill one of them to kind of set up the stakes of the movie.
Yeah.
Because like, if you kill all the cannon fodder, like nobody cares. Like nobody cares that any of the other new people on the team died in that opening scene. Nobody cares at all that any of them died. Like I do not care.
Right.
But like you kind of open with, Boomerang dying, and it's like, okay, like you've set up, do not get attached to anyone, even the people that we're familiar with and kind of think are safe. Do not even get attached to them, which comes later when Peacemaker kills Rick Flag, which I'm not even sure if he killed him, to be honest. I'll be honest.
I don't know if he killed him, but it really seems like it. We didn't see a dead body.
For a second when they went into the hospital, I thought it was going to be Rick Flag in the bed.
Yeah, so did I. And
because they made a point to say that I don't know how his heart was still beating.
Yeah.
Right.
And you saw the shard go into his heart. So I was like, oh, that's how they're gonna do it. They're gonna like Iron Man this shit. And he's gonna have like something stuck in his chest.
Because I had no like opinion on Rick Flag after the first one, but I really liked him in this one. I liked every character like that we were established with way more than I liked them in the first one. Boomerang, Rick Flag, Harley. I liked all of these characters more the second time around.
I think it's because he got to be more. He didn't have to be another guy who was
he had to be the straight man in the first movie. He had to be.
Yeah.
That, but also like
even Viola Davis, I liked her portrayal so much more.
Kind of my problem with him in the first movie as compared to this one is that like in this one, Rick Flag was like willing to be a part of the Suicide Squad,
Yeah.
like voluntarily, but he also like wasn't willing to blindly go along with Waller. Whereas like in the first one, yeah, we had all of the bad guys that were, are doing it for bombs strapped in their heads, but like he's doing it because someone else has a bomb strapped in his head, but like he's not doing anything bad really, like
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like he wasn't really a bad guy like the rest of them. And then like in this one it's felt like he's like he felt like a guy who knew like he was doing something a little questionable, but he was like, you know what, it's it's my job, so I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. And I think this goes a lot to the writing and James Gunn's direction, where, you just connect to the movie more. You care way more about the characters. Like, I care so much about a CGI shark that it's almost unhealthy. Probably actually very unhealthy. But yeah, I just really love this movie, and I just think every character was portrayed well and acted well.
There was a bunch of takeaways, at least from me. Like I share similar feelings as Dwayne. I didn't think this movie was like, some folks were like, this is the best DC movie since The Dark Knight. And I'm like, well, like, let's pump the brakes.
No, I'll hop on that train.
No, and I mean, all power.
I mean,
to
I
you.
don't even think The Dark Knight's the best Batman movie, but
Neither do I. But it's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
But I really, really enjoyed this movie, and after thinking about it more and more and talking about it, I really, really dug this. Dare I say, I love this movie, and it's a whole 180 from the original film that we got in 2016, and it feels different. I know some folks on social media were not messing with this movie at all, and again, all power to them. But to me, this is way more fun. It gave us way more of what I expect out of a Suicide Squad movie. The whole beginning was a troll. Like Amanda Waller sent a team that dies, so the real players can actually come up through a different spot, and that's where we set up the whole main character aspect. I love Idris Elba's Bloodsport, and I know we haven't talked about him a decent amount, but I thought
the whole scene where him and John Cena's Peacemaker are going through that camp and just like one-upping each other on who they kill was so funny. When he was like non-lethal, not cool, and he's like exploding bullets, and the dude just blows up, and he's like, it's cooler when someone doesn't like brag about what they're doing, and he's like, fuck, that's true.
That was my favorite. That was low-key my favorite scene in the movie.
It was
that scene was great. And then when they get into the tent and they're like, why didn't anybody let me know you were here? And they're like,
where's my team? Not here.
The comedy in this damn movie was really well done too. Like, and I thought this movie was hilarious. Like, and just that little banter, and like Idris Elba or Bloodsport just be like, oh, like fuck, I dig that.
I'm sorry for being a broken record, but even the scenes with like an actual like live action character with King Shark was some of the funniest scenes. Like when he makes the Peacemaker out of the dynamite, like the C4 explosives, and he's like, that doesn't look anything like me, but that's very nice.
Right. Yeah, there's so much to pull. There's so much to pull from this. Whether it's the King Shark of it all, like I love King Shark in this, and the whole sequence with the aquarium I thought was gorgeous. Like I thought not only was he like, oh hey stupid friends, like I like that, but it was beautiful to look at. And then when I also my heart sank when I thought they killed my man, those little damn fish things. I'm like, they really killed King Shark like that. I was about to be pissed, but they didn't. Thank God. Ratcatcher 2. I love the flashback with her and Waititi. Like Polka Dot Man too. Like they fleshed out these characters even more so than the David Ayer film did, and I got to care way more about them. And it sucks that Boomerang got to bite he had to bite the.
It sucks that Polka Dot Man died. Like he was
probably
one of the deepest characters in this movie. Because we got a lot on Polka Dot Man, and he was the most like, I don't know, like the most, they fleshed him out like he had the most good in him, even though they set him up as the most psychotic one.
Right.
And when he died, I was very upset. When he got
Likewise.
squished by Starro, I was like, oh no. Like, I loved him. When he was so worried about Melvin, I was like, oh, that's
You're
so
you're
sweet.
still
Like,
here?
I love this guy. And they killed him. I was like, that sucks because he's so good. And the actor, I can't pull his name, but he's in so much. He's in like a ton of like, he's in Prisoners and Blade Runner 2049. He's so good.
It's like David Desmachelin or something like that.
Yeah.
I know I'm mispronouncing his last name.
I love him.
Right. Man, the chat says he's the most human.
He was the most
human bunch.
And there's a picture of him with his cat dressed up as Polka Dot Man, and I was like, yeah, this is my dude.
The flashback with Ratcatcher 2, where she was talking about her dad, and Taika Waititi showed up, and I completely forgot he was in this movie. And I'm like, first of all, A, it's great casting for a Ratcatcher 1, and it's Taika Waititi of all people. 2, yo, if you were to tell me that my favorite character walking out of the damn theater would be Ratcatcher 2, the girl that sleeps all the time but can control the damn rats, it's like, really? But if James Gunn's proved anything, is that he can make the weirdest characters, he can put them over, like a talking tree and a raccoon with a gun. And now those two characters are absolutely ingrained in Marvel and in pop culture. People love Groot and Rocket. Matt in the chat, Nick called Polka Dot Man his spirit animal. Polka Dot Man is the jam. And I thought his death was so anticlimactic. I was so bummed.
I mean, I think that's kind of like, that was kind of the point. But it also, I think it was climactic because it came out right after the moment that he kind of like had been waiting his entire life to achieve.
Yeah.
So
he was like, I can do good. Like, I'm overcoming this and I'm doing good. So I think that was a very climactic thing. His death coming right after his like,
his big hero
proving himself was very climactic.
Right.
In terms of spirit animal, I mean, it's King Shark all the way. King Shark, my dude.
And to touch on the Harley stuff, Dwayne, I love what you were saying about like we saw both sides of Harley Quinn, as we should when we see every time we see the character. Like, yeah, she can be really sweet, but she's also a maniac and psychotic. And we saw the perfect dichotomy of that during the whole sequence with the president dude, right? She was all lovey-dovey with him, and she was like into him for a second, and her way of solving the situation was killing him, and absolutely getting tortured and then slaughtering everybody with that damn javelin, which was absolutely kick-ass. And the butterflies popped up behind her. What was the purpose of those? No idea. Loved it anyway.
It was beautiful.
Yeah,
and it took a lot for her to kill him, because she even said, like, sucks I gotta kill you, especially with that gorgeous monster between your legs. I was like, oh man.
It's like that. Yo, this movie was a ton of fun. It was really, really well done. And of course it was James Gunn. Do I keep rhyming? I don't know, I don't care. But I really enjoyed this flick. And
apparently he's doing more for DC even after Guardians 3. So I'm happy. I'm very excited to see what else he does for DC.
How'd y'all feel about Starro? Before I know it sounds like we're gonna move on, but how'd y'all feel about Starro?
I love it. It was fine. It was just another way to create kind of like the mindless drone villain.
Well, I don't even think it was like a mindless. I mean, yes.
I mean, not Starro as the
but his minions.
Yeah, but it was just it was a way to create kind of that like that kind of like I hate to say it this way, but like formulaic third act battle that we've kind of come to expect from
yes and no, films. Even Starro had like that struggle of like giving the audience.
No. I'm not talking about.
Do we?
I'm not talking about. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's like I'm not talking about Starro, the entity of Starro. I'm just talking about like using Starro was a way to facilitate that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yes, you still have to have a engaging character because it's like it's like Loki, right? Like in the Battle of New York, like Loki's only fighting what, 2 Avengers? Everyone else is fighting all of the freaking the minions.
Yeah. No,
Right.
So it's kind of like the same deal. It's like it's not that I have a problem with Starro. I just think that it was like I kind of didn't want to see that again because it's kind of what we got in the first one, and it's the part of the first one that I like the least because like for the majority of the first one, I do actually like the movie. Probably about like I don't know 4/5 or 4/6 5/6 of the movie I like.
Yeah,
it's when we get into the
characters.
It's when we get into the final kind of climactic battle. I'm just like this got a little bit out of control here.
I love Starro because it also introduces a character where, do we like this character or we don't? Because, the character, Starro even says, I just wanted to float in the stars and look at him. And you're like, well, of course he wants to get free. Like, he doesn't want to, like, rule the world. Like, he just wants out. He just wants to go back to space. Like, he was happy where he was. And these people kidnapped him, essentially, and brought him to Earth and contained him. And it's like, let me free. So I thought that was a beautiful moment when he was like talking about his motives. I thought that was a beautiful moment. So I really like Starro.
I think I might have liked Starro more if there had been a little bit of like subterfuge or something,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe like Starro had like gotten onto one of the generals and like had kind of started the coup as a way to get out, and like kind of like Starro was really the impetus of everything happening in the movie, not
right.
Like I think I would have liked that a little because it just would have been a little bit because I felt like there was no reason it had to be Starro. That's was my issue with it.
He did Starro just for the sake of doing Starro.
Like it was just like Starro's a weird character, so they're like, fuck it, this is a weird movie, we're gonna throw Starro into it. And that's kind of how it
was.
That's kind of how it felt.
It was more of like the story of like someone trying to control you, which I think goes to the story of the Suicide Squad. This is the story about, Amanda Waller trying to control this group of people to do her bidding, and it kind of plays into Starro being controlled by this government to rule the nations. And I think that was like where they were going with that. And I get that, especially with what he was talking about. Like every member of the Suicide Squad had like their reasoning for doing this. Like, I'm only doing this to do this, that, whatever. And Starro was like, I'm only doing this because I was happy in space looking at the stars. And right. I think that's where they were going with that. And that's why I really didn't have a problem with Starro in that third act.
I liked the Starro and the thinker stuff. Like Peter Capaldi was a great thinker.
Yeah.
Just to drop him in the conversation too. But when I will say this, when the tower came down, or like after like all that stuff and Peacemaker got shot, and I really dug Peacemaker in this movie too. Like he was one of my favorites to watch, and I cannot wait for his series as well. But
I didn't see him a lot. I could not see Peacemaker. I don't know if it was lighting or
like literally you cannot see Peacemaker in that bright red suit.
All I saw was like a helmet.
Oh, I see what you're trying to do. But the the stuff with Starro, it went on a little too long for me, especially like in the third act. And I see what you're saying, Connor. And it was all explicitly said to me or said to us when he saw, I was bothered. I was cool with doing whatever I was doing, and he was taken out of his element. He didn't want to do any of this crazy stuff, and I thought that was really well done. And that was James Gunn doing what James Gunn does best, and I really like that aspect of it. But it dragged on for a little bit too long for me. Wasn't a fan. I thought the fights were cool. I like how everything ended. I like because you gotta make all of them. You know, they all teamed up together to do their thing. I really dug it. This movie was super well done. There could have been some things I would have changed myself, but with what we got, I really liked it. I dare I say I loved it for what we got. And
I love this movie.
You know, it rules and it kicks ass. The gore in this movie too is gruesome sometimes. It's gruesome at points.
It earns its R rating, and I think it earns it well.
1,000%. But any final thoughts on Suicide Squad before we move on to What If?
King Shark is literally king. He is sexy. He's my king. I love King Shark. That's my final thoughts.
Okay, Dwayne. Anything else before we bounce?
No, I just if you haven't seen it, check it out. Whether that's
Any
in
way
theaters or whether that's in theaters or on HBO Max, I think it definitely is worth a watch for sure. And I think people need to kind of lay off on the whole it's underperforming thing. And it's like it made $8 million less than Black Widow, and Black Widow included the premium access numbers in their little 80 million or whatever that they made in the opening weekend. So it made that without having the $30 price tag on HBO Max. So I think it performed quite well. And on top of that, it's rated R, and you know, the virus is worse now than it was when Black Widow came out. So like there's a lot more going against the Suicide Squad than any of the other films that have kind of performed a little bit better in theaters. So kind of like that's not an indication of the quality of the film at all. It's not doing numbers like that because it's a bad film. It's just doing numbers like that kind of because of the predicament of the world and its release strategy. So
yeah, I don't think we can really judge a movie off of its box office return, especially in this time for the foreseeable future until everything is back to normal and everything is 100%. I don't think it's fair to judge any movie off of its box office until we're back to normal, whenever that is, because it's not going to be anytime soon.
I mean, I think it is. I think you just have to like remember that it's not normal times, and when you make your analysis, you've got to take a couple more things into account as you determine, okay, did this perform as good as it could have? And it's like, I don't know. I don't think it could have performed any better. I think the best it could have probably performed is maybe like another 10 million. So like, if that's all the increase probably could have been in a perfect situation, I think it did pretty damn fucking good at the box office. Like,
right.
I think maybe you're looking at like 90 mil max at the box office max.
Yeah. I think you're sweetening it up too. Like it's hard to judge movies right now, and people are still having discourse about box office. Why? I will never understand it. But I echo Dwayne's sentiments. If you have not seen the Suicide Squad and you watch this, and like if we didn't get you hyped for it, just go watch one of the trailers again, because those trailers were pretty damn good, and the movie's pretty damn good. So it's worth a watch from all of us here at the RGC. But one last thing before we end the show, we need to talk about a little bit of what if, because boy, what if really was something on my radar that I wasn't too excited for initially. When they announced it, I wasn't jumping around like when I saw Shang-Chi, or when I saw Eternals, or when I saw Black Widow, or Multiverse of Madness, or Spider-Man. I wasn't losing my mind. Even out of the TV shows, What If was at the very bottom in terms of anticipation. But then the first episode came out, and I watched the first episode. This is pretty rad. Like I really dug this, and I took a bunch of notes as I was watching it, and my main takeaway was, am I the only one that kind of wished that this was the preferred outcome? like this was the
you know how I feel about the first Avenger.
We're gonna get into the first Avenger conversation right now. Is that what we're gonna do?
I thought it was good. I'm not over the moon about this so far.
So I think this episode is there's a couple problems with What If right now, at least for me. I think the first one is they didn't do a good enough job kind of explaining the Watcher and who Uatu the Watcher is, and I think that that's kind of gonna I think that's gonna leave some people a little too confused. And I think, add another 5 minutes on the front and the back end and kind of give a better little explanation of the Watchers. And I mean, maybe they'll do that in each episode, and kind of as the episodes move forward, that will kind of get flushed out and ironed out.
See, I don't know if they're gonna do that. I think they're just gonna end with that tag where he says his tagline and that's it. So I don't know if they'll go more into him.
And if they do that, I think that's kind of it's
like
that's kind of
almost.
It's kind of a disservice, because I think what this is, and there's a reason we didn't know as much about What If prior, and that's because it would have spoiled Loki.
Yeah,
because opening, you figure out hey, these aren't what ifs. This isn't What If in the sense of it is in the comics, where it's kind of what if this little thing was different, and it's kind of a one-off. These are variant timelines. That's what these are.
And he says it in the episode when she makes that choice. She's like, he was like,
exactly,
that's the choice that split the timeline.
Exactly. And that's why we did that. So I was more hyped about What If once Loki finished, because I saw this already. I saw it. I was like, okay, what if is not going to be one-offs, it's going to be canon, for lack of a better term, because it's just going to be a branched reality that is now part
of.
And
I think there's a possibility still for this series to do that eventually, especially from what I know of the character, because he always says I don't interfere, but this Watcher does interfere in the comics.
Yeah,
this specific one does interfere, especially when there's a big bad coming. Yeah. And I think towards the end of this show, there is a possibility for this Watcher to interfere and be like, hey, this big bad is coming, whether it's King or someone else.
I don't know if it'll be in this show, because the things that the thing people have kind of forgotten is that, or people I think have kind of misunderstood, is one of the things people complain about a lot in some of the MCU films, particularly Doctor Strange, right? They complain about the exposition dumps, right? The long talks that kind of explain how things work.
I think the MCU shows on D+ are ways to get around that.
That's what I was getting at.
Exposition dump to be hey, this is happening, and then they can do short form.
Well, it's not that. It's think about in Doctor Strange when the Ancient One kind of explains the rules of magic.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I mean is the exposition dumps. Kind of annoy people. And it's now when we get into Multiverse of Madness, we don't need an explanation about how the multiverse works, because 70% of people will know because they watch Loki. And if someone doesn't know, you can be hey, they go explain this in Loki. So if you need it because you don't understand with what's going on in the movie,
you can go home and watch it.
Yeah, go home and watch Loki, and you've got your exposition dump on how the multiverse kind of works. And I think that's what this needs to be for Uatu, because I think we're gonna get him in Avengers, or we're gonna get him in one of these bigger movies moving forward. And if there's not enough explanation of the Watchers, people won't know why it's significant that he's decided to interfere.
I mean, we've gotten teases to the Watcher at the end of Guardians 2. We saw the three Watchers.
You just see them. People don't know what and who they are.
Watcher by the end of this show, like, I'm going to have to interfere. He's not going to say that directly, but we're going to see the Watcher about to interfere, whether that's in Guardians 3 or something else. Maybe like Multiverse of Madness, where he interferes and intervenes in that. I don't know, but I'm hoping the show leads to that.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think it will, but I think that they need to do a thorough job of not necessarily explaining Uatu, but they need to do a thorough job of explaining the Watchers, because if people don't understand who and what the Watchers are and what they do in the universe, it won't be significant when Uatu finally does decide to intervene. They won't know what that means for him as a character.
And I think they need to separate this from being a one-off, because most people are probably going to skip it because they think it is a one-off show. Like, this has nothing to do, it's animated, it has nothing to do what I'm invested in with the MCU timeline, which we know it is canon. So how do we get people in? And they're going to have to separate that from being a one-off. Like, this is just a fun series for, people thinking of what if it turned out this way. So they need to separate that from what if to, no, this is canon. So I think it'll be interesting.
Well, I think
how they separate that.
I think what if is fine. I think they just needed a better
pilot.
No. I think the pilot's fine. It's fine. It's not great. It's fine. But I think that, because I think a lot of people were intrigued by what it was. I think that just the opening didn't quite drive it home that, like, hey, I know this is called.
I don't know about that.
What if?
I was intrigued, and this first episode did nothing for me. I was like, all right, whatever.
That's what I'm saying. You were intrigued prior to watching the first episode, and I think a lot of people were. And I don't think that opening did enough to say, like, hey, like, this is not something that this isn't something you like need to watch, but it's going to help your understanding of the MCU.
Yeah.
Which I think that's kind of what is lacking on that side.
Yeah.
And then I also think that if we were going to kind of basically do a retelling of the first Avenger, the episode needed to be longer.
Yeah.
Yes.
I also think they need to straight out come out and be like, hey, this show is not going to tie into future installments of the MCU. This is like just branching off of like what has happened before, or they need to come out and be like, you need to watch this show to understand the movies. Because I feel like
I don't think you'll ever need to watch any of the shows to understand.
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't think that will ever be a requirement.
I just think if they tell me like, hey, this show isn't going to tie into anything, or it will tie into something, I think I'll enjoy it more knowing. Because right now I'm just like, I'm going in thinking like, this is going to tie into something.
The problem with that is there's only certain ways that they could make it tie into more. And if they kind of told you that, it would kind of ruin what's coming in the future, because like none of the individual timelines can really tie into anything else outside of like maybe like some circumstantial run-ins and like Multiverse of Madness or something like that, maybe some like Easter eggs, but like there's no way for the timelines to directly tie into the movies.
Explain it.
Like, I think the only connecting string that you can have is Uatu, And if you go like, hey, yo, you need to watch this because of Uatu the Watcher, it kind of ruins the fact that like, hey, he's gonna be in future stuff. You know?
I think that's the problem with Marvel is they set up everything like this is like a big thing in the series. I don't know how to explain it. Like
it's like and there is a
with Boner in WandaVision.
yeah.
Like they knew what they were doing and they were just like, fuck you.
Well, yeah, that was
they knew what they were doing with that casting and putting him in that series.
Right.
Well, yeah, because they knew people would run wild. They didn't.
That's what they're doing with this series, and I think that's hurting them more than helping them.
I don't think that's what they're doing with the series because I don't think that they're
it's a whole different case.
Yeah, because I think that this also might be a way for them to also like kind of look at a way to kind of like do some animation stuff as well. Like do a little bit
the animation is fantastic. It's just why am I watching this show is
well that's what I'm
is my question.
That's what I'm getting at is I think they're kind of testing the waters of finding a way to like do some stuff in animation because the one thing that like say what you will about their live action films, but the one thing that DC has always had a leg up on Marvel has always been their animation. They're like Marvel's animation, their movies, dog shit, like absolute dog shit. Like I don't think there has been a good one. Like period. I don't think there has been a good one. So like I think that they might be looking at a way to kind of
that's not Spider-Verse, of course.
Yeah. Well, because that's not a Marvel. Like I don't consider that like a Marvel.
That's Sony.
Like it's
that's
really Sony.
With
you're not watching Young Avengers. It's like, hey, this is some pretty good stuff. Like, no.
So like, I think it might be a way for them to kind of like do some things that are like tangential to the MCU without like touching the MCU. You know what I mean? And like this might be like the branching off and jumping off point for that because like they might do like a Captain Carter like limited run like cartoon. They might do like two seasons or 3 seasons of that. And like this is where it starts. They can kind of see like, hey, where like what are the things people are kind of latching onto? Because like the way I view this, if I was like a creative executive, right, is like, yes, all of this is going to tie into the multiverse. But again, and this is the other thing you have to remember, I don't think any of us are the target audience for this show. Whereas we were the target audience for Captain America and Winter Soldier, we were the target audience for WandaVision, we were the target audience for Loki.
I agree with that.
This is very much
made a good point of like telling audiences that they're marketing this as an MCU show. And
because it is still
in these MCU shows are going to watch anything with the Marvel tag onto it,
but that's
expecting it to tie into the MCU theatrically.
That's not their fault. That's kind of more our fault for kind of putting that on because I envision if I was a creative executive, the vibe I would want this show to have is I'm a kid in my sandbox playing with my action figures. And these are the stories that I would make up.
Right.
That's how I view this show. And they're able to connect them because they can use, branch timelines to kind of connect it. But like none of it is meant to be like, hey, like this is something that you absolutely need to like pay attention to moving forward in the MCU because we're 100% going to call back to this. Now, does that mean that they'll never call back to any of it? No, because they always can. If one of these episodes pops off, like, yeah, you bet your ass they're going to find some way to bring it back. Either if it's its own independent animation or they bring a character that was introduced in one of these, they bring them into live action or something like that. They're going to do that. But like the show, like, you you don't need to watch the show and be like, okay, everything in this show is going to have some relevant significance in, you know, phase 4 of the MCU, because I don't think that's the point of this show. The point of this show is kind of because I think some people were still very confused at the end of Loki.
A lot of people are. I've talked to a lot of people who are like, I don't understand a single fucking thing that happened in this show.
This show is a simple way of explaining it.
Yeah.
This show is a simple way of explaining the ramifications of what happened in the season finale of Loki.
Yeah.
100%.
And if the show successfully does that, it's served its purpose. Its purpose isn't to be this like huge connection.
No, I think the whole climate of the world right now affected that, because what wasn't Loki and What If supposed to come out after like Doctor Strange and Spider-Man? Originally, like the original plan was like it was
Spider-Man was supposed to come out a month ago, 2 months ago.
Yeah. And these were supposed to come out after. I'm almost positive they were supposed to come out after.
I think the timetable for almost everything got pushed except for
like Hawkeye and the stuff yet to come out.
Well, no, I think the timetable for this didn't get pushed because like animation doesn't work the same as like almost all of that work is done remote anyway. So it's like their timetable didn't change.
It was done, but I'm pretty sure it was supposed to come out after, because I think it was always supposed to come out after Spider-Man and Doctor
I think it was always supposed to come out after Loki,
which was coming out after Spider-Man and Doctor Strange.
I don't think so, because I think
Spider-Man was supposed to come out in July, and then Doctor Strange would have already also come out. Yeah, it was like the next month or the month after.
Yeah, but the thing is we would have kind of had a little bit of a different setup because we know that there was some Doctor Strange stuff in WandaVision that didn't happen because of
that's what I mean by I think like expectations were altered because of the.
I mean, I don't think they were entirely, at least not like, because I think the main parts, like the main places where things had to like kind of get like
my point is like after Spider-Man and Doctor Strange I would have known what was going on in terms of like the timeline, like in the ramifications, where I'd be like, okay, this is going on at the same time. Like I know what the multiverse is now.
I mean,
like, I know this is just.
Would we have though? Because I don't think Loki changed at all.
Loki came out earlier than it was supposed to.
Yes, but remember, the person who wrote Loki wrote Doctor Strange after he was finished writing Loki.
Okay.
So the story of Loki was done way before Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness because it's written by the same person. And it was done before because he's talked about how he kind of had to fix some stuff in Multiverse of Madness that he did in Loki. So I don't think things like, I think the main things where things kind of were finagled were there was going to be a little bit more teased in WandaVision than there was because they had to take that break for Multiverse of Madness. And then they also had to, I think, swap a bunch of stuff around in Captain America and the Winter Soldier because Black Widow hadn't come out yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where the main things were kind of, flip-flopped and finagled. I think that but I think Loki Loki was fine where it was. I don't think that really messed up.
No, I think Loki works fine on its own. It's just what if I'm still wondering why am I watching this?
I think it's.
I mean, it's also
like,
the first
like with-
episode. You can't that's hard
No,
to
I
judge
know. Yeah.
on first episode. Like
like
I think
what
a
you
lot
were
of
saying
people.
earlier. Like
My
it
problem
goes back
is
to
like I'm just one of those people that if I'm not hooked by the first episode, like why am I watching this? And that's my own fault. But
I think some
I have to
people.
watch this show because I'm reviewing it every week. So
Because
here
I think some people felt that way about Loki until like the fourth episode or fifth episode. They're like,
Yeah.
"Why am I watching this show?" And it's like the reason you're watching the show is for the last episode. Like, not that the other episodes aren't good, but like the final episode is really where the lasting impact of that first season is. So
well,
like
I don't know because Loki first episode I was like this is the best thing Marvel's ever done.
well, no, I'm not. Yeah. But you're talking about purely the quality of the show. You're
Yeah.
asking about why are you watching the show in terms of how it relates to the rest of the universe. You no idea until
Until
like,
the last episode.
Yeah, until the last episode. Like
Yeah.
you're kind of like aimlessly just on this journey with a variant that to the rest of the MCU
Doesn't
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So like you could have said the same thing about Loki after the first episode. You just liked what you got in the episode. So like, maybe you didn't like what you got in this
I
episode.
mean, they've
fine.
released some
Like-
teases for future episodes, and I'm excited. So I'm definitely on board. It's just this first episode just did not really do anything for me, I guess.
I mean, I kind of like the episode was fine, but I kind of felt like I talked about this on the Inner Geekdom show earlier. It's like I kind of would have rather them done a what if kind of picking up starting at the end of the episode and moving forward from there.
Yeah.
Because kind of like with great power comes great responsibility, and watching the pearls hit the ground, you know, I don't need to see the story of the first Avenger again. Like I know it well enough that like I kind of would have gotten the gist of like, hey, okay, this is, you know, Peggy went through that part of the story instead of Steve. Like I don't need to know the rest of it, honestly, you know?
Yeah, a lot of it was just plugging in Peggy where it was Steve. It's like you used half this runtime to explain the Watcher. I think I would be more interested.
Give us a longer runtime and kind of go a little bit further than they did, which they might, because I can't remember, but where I heard it or read it, but I'm pretty sure we're getting more episodes that we're going to see Captain Carter. So this isn't going to be the only episode. So there might be a little bit more story to tell. Cause like, I'm more interested in like, hey, how are we going to get on with a team full of dude Avengers being led by a woman? That's like, I want to see that. That is way more interested than, you know, misogynists in the 40s and 50s. Like, yeah, that's what they were like, you know, or like, how has the world changed as far as like how women are viewed when the biggest, you know, hero in existence was a woman, you know, instead of it being Steve.
In regards to the actual episode and what we got, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was cool seeing essentially the roles being reversed between Steve and Peggy, and how really their characters relatively remain the same, just in different positions. And I thought it was a real fun surprise seeing Nick Fury and Hawkeye at the end of that, and that portal. That was pretty damn rad. And like what Dwayne was saying, I would have loved to see that story continue, and hopefully we do once the time comes. And to acknowledge the point about the Watcher and what the purpose of the Watcher is, I kind of like that they didn't tell us too much about him, because we have so many more episodes to go. And like, why blow your load in the beginning with the Watcher and make us wait to see the ramifications? We know what the Watcher can do. But the general fan, I can walk out this door right now and ask a bunch of people, do y'all know who the Watcher is? And they would be like, who the hell is that? And why would they care? Marvel's going to make them care by the end of the series, at least by how I perceive it. It's coming from a guy who had, I didn't give a shit.
But if you could,
if you
spread a little tease in that first episode, like this is what Watcher can do. This is a little bit of his story that can invest.
If we get different and kind of a little bit more robust intro and outro with each episode,
That'll serve its purpose.
Yeah, that will kind of serve the purpose. And then like maybe the last one is kind of like, you know, a Kang timeline or something like that.
Right.
You
Him
know?
actually revealing what he's capable of doing.
Or
right.
But if every episode is kind of like, you know, there are timelines.
These are my stories.
I am the Watcher. What if? Like if that's the voiceover every single time, it's like, okay, well, this was kind of fucking pointless. And it's like,
right. Then I'll agree with you.
Not that the show is pointless, but like making us do this as though like through with the Watcher as the narrator kind of is what I'm getting at, is like the Watcher didn't need to be involved if that's all it was going to be.
Right.
It could have just been like, hey, this is
my point. That's my point. You know? Is like involving like a big character is kind of pointless if it's just going to be, you know, what if like multiple like different storylines. So yeah, that I guess I didn't explain my point clear enough, but yeah, that's my point, Dwayne. Like
if we get to the final
character is pointless if they don't involve
pay it off.
Yeah. If they don't
and I totally agree on that one. If they don't pay off bringing in the Watcher, I'm gonna be like, what the fuck? Like why'd you do it? Like what was the point of it? It's kind of how I felt about Taskmaster in Black Widow. I felt like there was no real reason that character had to be Taskmaster. It could have been anyone. It could have been a new it could have been a new villain that never had been seen before, and the character wouldn't have changed. So that was kind of my problem with it being Taskmaster. It wasn't that it was a woman or any of that. It's just like the character didn't need to be Taskmaster.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you could have called him Bullseye and it would have been, you know, the same story. No change.
Wait a
minute. But it would have been no change.
Bullseye.
But it literally would,
like, because people would be on a fucking tangent about like,
but it's literally it just would would have been no change to the actual character by changing the name of the characters. Right. What I'm getting,
it could have been Chris Lopez. It's like who gives a shit?
Yeah, and it's like if the Watcher isn't going to actually mean something as far as this is concerned, then like there was no reason for it to be the Watcher.
Right. And Connor, and that's where like I think it's a little unfair to say that after one episode. Yeah. But if we start getting deeper and deeper into this,
it's just my thought on one episode. I'm not saying I'm not going to watch the show because I have to watch this show, and I'm going to because I'm intrigued enough to continue. But this first episode was just okay. I'm not over the moon like I was with Loki or WandaVision or anything like that. But
the show serves a different purpose too. Like,
I'm with you being extremely hesitant about where this is gonna. Like, I'm still a little worried that is what they're gonna do. I haven't, but because we've only seen 5 minutes of the Watcher.
Yeah,
that's why I'm. I don't even think it's been that. It's maybe been like 2 minutes, and that's kind of got me worried a little bit. Yeah. But maybe the next episode is exactly what I said. It's a different voiceover with a little bit more, sprinkled in, and then the outro is a little bit more sprinkled in, kind of like, because I also think
we really don't know where this branch is taking place because we know there were different Nexus events within the timeline and they were corrected. We don't know if this timeline was corrected or not. We don't know what is going on.
Yeah.
So maybe halfway through the series is when, with the ultimate Nexus event with Loki in that series, when they meet Kang happens. We don't know when that's going to happen in terms of this show. So that's what is kind of keeping me on board, is because I still don't know.
We also don't.
Was just this first episode, which is
we also don't know, because this episode was a very small change, and
so literally a person being in a different room.
Yeah, and it's all it was. But we don't know what because kind of as we've been explained, like how these Nexus events happened, is it's like one is not that big of a deal, but one leads to a bigger one, which leads to a bigger one, which leads to a bigger one, which leads to a bigger one that eventually results in the branch of the timeline and creates like an irreversible branch. And it's like maybe we get, as we go, kind of stories that are drastically more different than the original story as it was told, because the initial event is bigger.
Right.
You know? Kind of thinking about is like if you toss a small rock into a pond, you get small ripples, but if you throw a fucking boulder into a pond, you get waves.
And maybe this show like started out with this with such a small variance to explain kind of like what the moment was for Loki, because we don't really know what that moment was. People are still theorizing about what was the moment that caused the multiverse. So maybe this joke for Loki.
For Loki?
Yeah.
Oh, it was the
people are like, oh, it's Wanda, like the moment in WandaVision when she became the Scarlet Witch. It was actually when they like started falling in love. People are still theorizing about that.
It's when they took He Who Remains out of control of the timeline.
Yeah, I
because what people forget is he talks about it.
Yeah,
he talks about this is the furthest moment in time I've ever been.
Because but people started lining up WandaVision, the finale of WandaVision, and the finale of Loki, and it matches up, and so people are starting to theorize like, when is that moment? Yeah, it matches up like moment for moment. Where once she turns into Scarlet Witch, he starts acting kind of more like, oh, like I don't know what's happening beyond this.
Are you talking about like in the time codes
guy, and he drops like a pen?
Are you okay? So you're talking about like you're talking about like the time codes of the episode?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't take
people are theorizing about that. I don't
I think that's going a little I think that's going a little too far, because like
I agree. It's just a fun theorization with the audience, and we still don't know what that moment was, what that Nexus event was, because it's never been clearly defined. Maybe this show defines that.
I think it was pretty clearly defined, because he that was the whole exposition dump that he said. He's the only thing that is keeping the timeline in order is the fact that I am here sitting at the end of it controlling.
But he said you can take control of the you can take my place, and
he did, but
same thing.
But what it's no. He said you can take my place if you control the timeline, and you can take his place. But Sylvie said, I don't want to take your place. I just want you gone. So they killed him, but didn't replace him.
But wasn't like the whole like cathedral like shaking even before that?
I think that's because they went further. That's what he was talking about. Is
that was the furthest it's gone.
He was like, this is the furthest in time I've ever been. I don't know what happens from here.
Right.
You know? Or the threshold. He's like, this is the threshold. It's like, this is where you make the decision. I've never been past this point.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and I think that was kind of what created the Nexus, is that because he did say it, it's like, you two can replace me, but there needs to be someone controlling the timeline.
Yeah.
But neither one of them, Sylvie threw him out of the timeline, and Sylvie even said, I don't want to rule. I just want to I want revenge, basically. So she had no interest in controlling the timeline and keeping the timeline in check post that. So she did it, and it created the multiverse.
And now here we are. What if? And this show, I'm fascinated to see where it goes. I'm honestly at this point, I'm not going to hold my breath if the watcher doesn't make a big deal out of his presence by the end of the series. Because I know there's going to be more than one season of this, so who the hell knows what is going to happen with What If. But at the end of the first episode, I really dug it. Like I dug it. I thought it was cool. I thought it was fun, and I'm intrigued by what we have in store going forward. I know we've seen like the trailer gave us a lot of ideas of what we're gonna do, zombies and
I've only seen the
going
first.
with the Guardians.
I've only seen the first trailer. I haven't seen anything.
I haven't seen trailers. I've just seen images in the episode tag. Episode 4 is the one I'm excited for. That's
I haven't seen any. All I saw was that first like teaser.
Yeah.
That's all I've seen because like I kind of want to go into this as blind as possible. So like,
Man, that's the best way to approach.
I mean, I'm
shows.
super intrigued. Like I am very intrigued. I want to see what, you know.
I'm from Ohio, so I have nothing better to do than be online. So I see spoilers a lot.
I just really hope that like, and yeah, it's fine if they don't kind of do like the entire instant impact of the watcher in the first season. Yeah, I also do agree that there's going to be multiple seasons of this, but it's like they do need to give the significance to the audience so that if and when
to make it worth it.
If they don't pay off with the watcher in this show tying into future installments, I'm not going to immediately say this show is shit. I'm not going to be that guy that's
it's just wasted
because I didn't get like what I was expecting. If enough episodes leave me satisfied, I'm going to be like, this was a fun show.
It's just going to feel like a wasted opportunity, I think.
Yes. Yeah. I'll be like, they kind of wasted that with all these like variant timelines to tie this in, but I'm not going to be like one of those people that are like, the show is shit because it didn't meet what I was expecting. So I'm not that kind of person, especially with the reaction to Loki where people were like, there was no resolution. Well, no, because there's a second season. Did you ever watch a show on TV when like every season is cliffhanged? Like,
well, and people were like, "There's no resolution." It's like there was resolution.
There was.
It just wasn't
like
necessarily
chopped and screwed.
It wasn't like
it's
this is the beginning, middle, and end. How you're used to with that to you. It's a show.
That wasn't the end goal. The end goal of the entire show was to figure out who was in control of the TVA.
Absolutely. Right. And there's another season, so just watch the next season. Jesus Christ.
The story that was told or started at the beginning of the season was concluded at the end. We found out who was in control of the TVA. That's like that was your resolution. Yeah. I mean, maybe it wasn't quite exactly what you wanted to be or expected it to be, but it's like it was a completely valid resolution, and I stand by. I think Loki is probably the best thing Marvel's ever done.
That's my opinion too, and I had to sacrifice that on our Marvel rankings.
Sorry,
you're welcome, Chris. But yeah, I agree.
It was top 4. Like,
but it's number 1 for me. But I gave you 3. I gave you like 10. I gave you 10.
But I mean, if you do a top 4, it's like I don't know. I don't know what you put above. That's right.
It is a black-owned business.
It's very true.
Because like local business.
Because I don't know what 4 things you put above.
What 3? It was our 4.
Oh, okay. So it made it into the top 4. Okay.
It was
okay. That's
I gave him 3 because he was a piss baby about it.
But I mean, I can only think of like maybe like one thing I would put over it, and it's still like kind of an argument for me, and that's Endgame. Even though I think Infinity War is the better movie, I just think
Endgame was my number 2. Endgame.
I just think what the accomplishment that Endgame was kind of like puts it there, which is why it's
Winter Soldier.
That's why it's
Infinity War. That was our 3.
Yeah,
above.
I absolutely can't agree with that at all.
Yeah, Loki was my number 1, and then it was Endgame, and then Winter Soldier was my top 3.
Because for me, Infinity War, the best part of Infinity War is the last like 2 minutes, because I never thought it was going to happen.
Oh, right.
Like the rest of the movie kind of like it's like, I hate to say it, but it's pretty formulaic. Like it's not this like
They're not out here reinventing the wheel. But
yeah, like
it's
it's
I don't know,
it's-
when Thor comes down
it's-
during that battle there with his
No,
like
I mean,
theme music
it's-
and
it's-
rockets on his shoulder just fucking blasting
that's
people, I was like,
badass.
yeah.
It's badass. Yes, it's a great moment. Yes, but like I think as a whole, like the movie as a whole didn't like do anything like outstandingly new. I think it was very much a hero's journey. So like that's,
I guess movies like hit me
I'll be
differently.
right back.
No problem. Movies hit me differently where it's movies and shows. It's moments that really make it for me. So
right.
there wasn't really a moment in What If that really hit for me where I was like, this is great. Loki, that first episode, there were moments in there that really hit for me where I was like, this is fantastic.
And I'm not gonna act like What If is his pot of gold. Let me also put that into perspective. Like,
Sorry
I'm
about
not
that.
saying-
Someone was knocking on my door.
You're fine.
No
Like,
worries.
I'm not gonna act like What If was perfect and immaculate. Like, no, I prefer as we stand with what the shows that we've gotten, I prefer the first episodes to those shows over this one. But like, I just enjoy what we got. I was a fan of what we got and the product.
It's just like I was saying, it's moments for me that make a movie. The movies I love, there are iconic moments that I love or moments that resonate with me. And as far as What If goes, there wasn't really a moment in that first episode that really resonated or affected me where I was over the moon about it.
Sure.
Suicide Squad, there were lots of moments, as I've talked about, that resonated with me, that made me love the movie. Infinity War, Endgame, so on and so forth. Moments that resonated with me that sent me over the moon. So I'm hoping in the episodes to come, there are moments that resonate with me, that send me over the moon, that I'm like, you need to watch it, What If. But as it stands, there weren't really any moments that like sent me out.
Yeah, I think we might struggle with What If for those kind of, because the problem with like Suicide Squad or or Infinity War or Endgame or any of these movies is that we kind of have a bit more history with the characters.
Yeah.
And it's like, for these, while yes, we have history with the characters, they're never in the way that they're going to be presented. So like with this, we don't have any history with like Peggy quite the way that we do with Steve.
Yeah.
So none of those things that happened with Steve kind of have that same impact.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know? Sure. So, and I think that might be the struggle with every single one of these episodes, is that like none of them are going to have kind of those moments that you're finally waiting for.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
I agree with that.
And this show, I think what the purpose of the show is, like, it's more, I hate to say this, but you know, it's a fun thing, like what Dwain was saying earlier. Like, it's a fun thing to do. It's like, oh, what if this was done by this, or this person was in this position? Well, like, that's fun. It's fine and all dandy, but we're so spoiled by the MCU now, where like a lot of shit has to mean something. And especially like y'all were saying earlier with the introduction of the Watcher as a character now, and what's supposed to be canon. Kevin Feige said a long time ago that all this stuff was canon and that all this stuff was a part of the universe, and we're just expanding on it. So you're introducing the Watcher, which we've seen before.
Now, is that our fault, the audience's fault, or is that Marvel's fault? I'll go back to Boner. Casting Evan Peters. They knew what they were doing.
That's
all audience fault,
or is that Marvel's fault?
That's the audience's fault, 100%.
Yeah.
But you're casting someone.
They did it on purpose. It was. They did it on
okay.
purpose.
You cast actors
You
all
know
the time.
but you knew what the audience reaction was going to be. Like, cast someone else. You knew what the
It
reaction
threw
was
off the
going to
set.
be.
It threw everybody for a loop.
Yeah,
That
it
like, oh, yo,
did. But
Quicksilver's
you
in this.
knew that it was going to set up disappointment. Like,
I don't think
you're
it did.
setting up, like,
It didn't disappoint me.
You're holding off
Yeah, likewise.
the trailers for certain movies till certain things end. Because, it's going to tie in. You're making it seem like things are going to tie in. So you're waiting for the trailer for Spider-Man, which is like 3 months away. You're holding off for this trailer, and people are thinking like I think the hold off is making people think like this is going to tie into that. I think it's a give and take
but again, them deciding to hold off, like that's us taking it as an indication.
Yes.
That's not them saying that it is.
No, that's true.
I'll
agree with that, but I think that the casting of Evan Peters and setting that up, that is 100% Marvel's fault with how the reaction of that came about. That is their fault 100%. They knew what was going to happen, and they threw him in as like a throwaway character. That is their fault.
I don't know why they're
intended.
I don't think it was like I don't know why they're at fault, because I thought it was fun. I thought it was a nice nod.
No, I think it was.
I didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was fun.
I wasn't upset about it. Like, it was funny, but holding off 3 episodes to be like, no, this character means nothing. I think that's their fault.
Well, that was the story that they were trying to tell.
Yeah,
and they wanted, of course, they wanted people to think that was Quicksilver.
They also, they also had to because that reveal happened in line with other things happening in the show.
Yeah.
So it's like they couldn't just like if they would have revealed that 3 episodes earlier, they would have had to reveal other things 3 episodes earlier.
That's true.
So it's like you kind of have to understand things kind of go hand in hand. And something that I just thought about with What If is, and this is again thinking about that demographic thing, is when you look at who the demographic of who What If is for, again, it's not for us.
Right.
It's TV 14.
Yeah, that's fine. But TV 14 does not mean it's for 14-year-olds. It just means that it was given a TV 14 rating.
That's true. I'm just saying it's got a higher rating than
most I think
Peggy
Power
Carter was
Rangers
straight up killing dudes in this episode.
I was gonna say I think Power Rangers had TV 14 rating for a while. It doesn't mean Power Rangers is for 14-year-olds. Power Rangers
has some crazy action scenes, and that's TV.
It's still for kids, but it's I really think this is for kids, and I think it's to give I think what this is gonna be.
That's all it is.
Well, no,
I'm excited for the rest of it.
It gives an alternate vehicle to explain the multiverse to kids.
That too.
Because I don't think any kid is going to watch Loki and understand anything that's going on in the show.
We're in the vast minority of how we reacted to the end of that episode. We are in the minority compared to how the millions of people that watched that episode.
No, I'll agree with Dwayne, because when I was probably 12 when Friday Night Lights came out, and I didn't understand a fucking thing about that movie. And that's a football movie, and I didn't understand the things they were going through.
I was going to ask
now watching it as an adult, I'm like, oh, this movie fucking rules.
Yeah, it's one
of those things.
Because I think when we get to Multiverse of Madness and No Way Home and things like that, is they don't want the kid audience that's going to be going to see those to be so lost on what's going on.
No,
so I think that this is just a companion piece kind of to Loki to kind of also explain it to people, because also I think animation is I mean, I don't want to make it sound like animation is for kids, but I think it's easier. It's an easier medium for kids
It's
to
easier
understand.
accessible for kids.
Yeah. So like, I think it's just, I think a
More
lot of this,
consumable almost.
and I think what a lot of people are going to forget is that this is heavily targeted at, you know, explaining this to children. And it doesn't necessarily need to be this like super important thought piece, like groundbreaking
you're
character
absolutely right.
experiment that
Right.
kind of what we've gotten with some of the other things, or like tackle some of the themes that some of the other shows have tackled.
Right.
So like, I mean, do I hope it takes a little bit more of a step? Yes, but I think we're on a solid foundation for now.
Now
We're on
let's
an
revisit
okay
this conversation 5 episodes later.
Yeah,
and let's
like,
see how we feel about the Watcher and shit, and we'll go from
I mean,
there.
I give it a like a begrudging 4 out of 5.
I give it a 3 out of 5.
Because I don't really do halves. Like I don't see the point of halves. Like I think it's just way more to the point. If it's a 3.5, like what's really like, if I'm taking off a half point, that means I'm nitpicking. And why am I nitpicking someone else's art? Like at that point, I'm not like I'm doing something that's really taking the enjoyment out of watching it, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
So
I give it 3 serums out of 5 serums.
Nice.
It's
if
like,
I had to go by Dwayne's logic and not going to 0.5 skis, I would definitely give it 4 tentacles out of 5. Totally. Like I like this. Like I kind of knew I was getting myself into. Do I want more of the Watcher, and did I want more of that? How does this tie into the other stuff? Of course I did. But like I thought it was really well done. I like the voices. Like I love the animation. Like it was really fun to watch. And Peggy Carter straight killing fools with that shield. It's like why wasn't Steve doing that in the movies? My dogs freaked the hell out. But I think it's a perfect time to wrap up. Unless we have any last thoughts on What If.
I was just gonna say, because I've only seen that trailer, and I've only seen it once, maybe twice. I don't remember if they showed any of this, but is the animation style going to be the same in every episode?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one drawback for me, is I wish this was a little bit more like
different animators each episode.
Yeah, they kind of get a little bit more interpretation into it. I would love to see that. Something a little bit more like Visions. I think that would be cool.
Right.
But you know, like I can't. I don't want to be too greedy. You know.
Yeah.
Right. No, but I think that would be a cool thing to kind of do, and like I think it's a way to like involve, like we talk about the diversity in front of and behind the camera, and it's like one of the places where you don't really get to see diversity because you don't really see the people. Is animation, and I think it would have been a really cool way to kind of diversify who's working on Marvel projects and kind of get some new fresh voices, not into a $90 million blockbuster, budget film. Like it'd be a cool way to do something like that. So
and
that would have been cool.
With them exploring more animation in the future, and Marvel's come out and said they're going to try and do more stuff, more animated stuff. Maybe it's the direction they go. They allow different animators to be flexible with these characters, whether if it's in a What If style or maybe if it's in other offshoots. It all doesn't have to be connected. Boy, will we like it to 100%. But you know what? Maybe let's see how Visions comes out and see how that whole rollout does, and then we can revisit the conversation in regards to Marvel. But I would like to see some diversity. But as we stand with What If, I like the animation. I think it's dope. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Connie, is there anything we missed throughout the show, brother?
No, if you're not simping over King Shark,
or Ratcatcher 2,
I don't know what you're doing.
Nice mixture of the two.
So yeah, simp over them because beautiful characters.
Right. You can simp with us here on the Reel Geek Corps every Wednesday, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. Dwain, the special guest star of the episode. Thank you so much, brother, for coming on the program, for enlightening us with all your stuff. Let the people know what you got going on, dude.
You can find me anywhere and everywhere on the internet at Burkemade. If I'm on a platform, that is where you're going to find me. Like, people ask me all the time, like, what's your PSN? It's Burkemade. What's your Reddit? It's Burkemade.
It's in the description.
If I'm on a platform, that's where you're going to find me. Please check out my YouTube channel, where I do a bunch of like tips, tricks, and tutorials to help people with their live streams, like different like OBS tips and tricks, some Photoshop stuff, some Premiere Pro stuff, some After Effects stuff, microphone stuff, doing a bunch of stuff over there. You can check out my Patreon. I've got an OBS masterclass that I'm on a 2-week break for right now, just because I've been doing some production stuff that my schedule has been insanity. So I haven't been able to get lessons up, but I'm going to be getting lessons back up starting next week. But those are also on demand. So if you missed, we're only on like lesson 5. So if you missed the first 4 lessons, they're on demand. You can go back and find.
I'll need to check those out. I don't understand OBS whatsoever.
But yeah, that stuff. Check out the Schmodown on Twitch, the FCL, which if you want to know if I really know what I'm doing in OBS, that's a perfect example to see everything I know how to do, because it is 100% live game show and everything. Like it's all live. And then just check out the Schmodown,
Check out my man, Dwain Burke. Burkemade. It's in the description of this video. Go ahead and follow him everywhere. Subscribe to his stuff. Check out his Patreon, all that fun stuff. Much love, Dwayne, for coming on the program. I know we have some plug skis of our own to talk about here on What Free Guy. Check out Matt's review of Free Guy. He got to see that a little bit early. Comes out this weekend. Do you want his thoughts on that movie? Go ahead and check that out. New flick, Ryan Reynolds. Apparently,
all right.
We will definitely be talking Free Guy and its spoilery goodness next week on the program. And that's not the only real review we have up on the channel right now. We do have the first 3 episodes. Matt got to see the first 2 episodes alongside Nick Mulbach, which you can see him on Friday. We'll talk about that more in a second. But Matt and Nick got to talk the first 3 episodes of What If. Non-spoilery, of course. So check that out. But Connor and I will be back every single Wednesday talking about What If and its spoilery goodness.
Don't
every
forget about
single Wednesday.
Turner and Hooch.
Don't forget about Turner and Hooch. I'll never forget about Turner and Hooch, dude. You're the only reason I'm watching the damn show. So we better be talking some damn Turner and Hooch. But of course, you can check out the RGC every Wednesday. You can check out Really Scared, coming soon to a YouTube channel near you.
We're coming back, baby.
There we go. You heard it. You heard it there first. One of the co-hosts, Connor Breedlove, alongside Taylor Cleek. You might see him in that. You might see his advocate, or no, his rager. Is that what they're calling him in the showdown? No, he's the Raging. Yeah, but I don't care about that damn Rager. Taylor Cleek's a really good guy though. So check out Really Scared, coming very, very soon with our boy Connor Breedlove. On Friday, Wrestle Reel. You get myself, Nick Mulbach, talking about the latest and greatest in wrestling, and we have our own little indie fed that we're doing on WWE 2K20, the worst game ever created. We got a women's tournament that we're doing the half of this Friday. Nick and I are so excited. It's going to be a mess.
What are you playing that on?
We're playing on Nick's laptop, which makes it so much worse. It's such a bad game, but Nick and I do that every Friday, 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern. It will be pre-taped this week because your boy is obviously not in a usual setting.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be a thing.
That's going on, boy.
Right. And my brother's probably jonesing to get back into his room. But you can catch Saber Reels on Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. You can catch Toby Barkwell, Colin Morris, Matt Thomas talking about Star Wars and all that fun stuff. Real Talks are on Sundays, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. And of course, Spin from the Reel, a Schmodown reaction show every single Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Those are on Mondays. And Real Sports. We have a show every day.
Jesus Christ. Every day. That'd be an easier way to say it, Chris.
Every day.
Every day on this channel, there's a show.
There's something. Real Sports. They go on later in the evening around 9-ish. Yes, on Tuesdays. So check out the show. Just check out the channel. Subscribe. Hit the bell. We go live every single day with something.
For everybody.
With something. We go live every day with something. But once again, for our special guest star, Dwain Burke, and of course, the Prince of Wild Real Entertainment, Connor Breedlove. My name is Chris Anthony Lopez. Thank y'all so much. Rest in peace, Arthur. We'll see you guys next time.
You're welcome back anytime you want to come back. You're welcome.